Well, hi, everybody. Welcome in once again to another Alumni Spotlight right here on the Queens Sports Network. As always, I'm Mike Glennon, and today we are joined by former Queens lacrosse player and now MBA out of Queens as well, Mr. Jesse Oliver. And Jesse, thanks so much for carving some time out for us. I know it's a busy time for you just ending up school and looking on to that next chapter, but welcome in.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here.
Well, we talked about it. You've done a lot both on this campus and off throughout your time here at Queens. You're a 2019 graduate, played lacrosse here for 4 years on some really good offensive teams. You contributed to that a lot as well. But can you just start by talking a little bit about kind of your overall time here at Queens and what it's meant to you now that you're looking on to that next chapter?
Yeah, Queens was amazing for me. I tell everybody every time I talk about it, it really helped me expand as a person. When I first came down here, obviously coming from a different country, I didn't know anybody, and I committed very late. So when I first got to campus, I was kind of on my own and very quiet. But as soon as I started to meet people and started to learn a little bit about some opportunities on campus that I could really exploit to grow my personality, it was unbelievable. But I would say experiences working as an RA and working just on campus with everybody and being an athlete and seeing everybody in the lunchroom and just being friendly with people just helped me grow as a person so much to be in a spot where honestly I don't think I would be if I stayed at home. And so that paired with a lot of the great lessons that I learned from the coaches that I had. I went through three at my time. Started with Coach Fritz, and then went from Coach Kivlin to Coach Panos. They were really great mentors for me. So I can't take all the praise. I got shaped by a lot of really good individuals on my team. I had coaches and everything like that. As well as I worked a lot on campus as an RA, and I was a head RA for 1 year. So it was a lot of fun. I got to learn just a ton of different perspectives from people, which I'm really glad I did because, like I said, I would not be where I am today without Queens.
Absolutely. Well, and it's always cool to hear. And, it sounds like you had a few unique perspectives on campus because not only were you a student athlete, which there's a lot of student athletes here on campus at Queens, but you're also that RA role. And you, of course, did a lot of internships. And, of course, were a graduate assistant right here the last couple of years as you were pursuing your MBA through the athletic department. So talk a little bit about those experiences and kind of, what it meant and how that helped you along the way with your MBA being a graduate assistant here at the university.
Yeah. So as a GA at Queens, in the athletic department, I first have to definitely give a shout out to Sherry because she absolutely helped me because when I went home after my graduation, I was keen on staying in Charlotte. But the visa situations are a little bit tough. But being able to come back and work as a GA and do school and start my MBA was massive for me because again, it opened doors that would have not been there before doing it. And some of the experiences I got working on a lot of broad stuff with Sherry was awesome because it wasn't so much of, okay, you're going to be doing this and this and this. It was, okay, we got everything we got to do. Let's make it all happen and try to get it as best as we can. So it prepared me for kind of continuing to move and figure out my lane and where I can help and where I can add value to other places. So the internship or the grad assistantship with Sherry was awesome. And plus I got to work with you guys a bunch. I never would have thought I loved the commentating and the color commentating. It was amazing in my time doing it, but I loved it. I got to see so much stuff from Queens that again helped me get to where I am today.
I know I've made this joke with you before, but one of my favorite moments of working with you was when you were helping us produce for the Wingate game this year. And just, you were invested in it like you should have been out there on the field. And of course, for a guy that's played with this program for 4 years and then you go on to be a grad assistant with the athletic department, you still have all those emotions and everything tied up and invested. And I just loved out of the corner of my eye being able to see that excitement. It helped me get jazzed up a little bit as well. So I got to give you kudos to that, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, that was honestly, I think there were a lot of really good games that I played in, and I shout out to those guys that beat Wingate because it's always nice beating Wingate, and especially when they're ranked that high, coming in cocky. Oh, it felt good to just be there. And honestly, I think that was one of the best wins that I wasn't even a part of, but I
Sure.
was there for it. And so I would say top couple wins that I've seen.
Well, it's funny. I told Coach Panos, I said, I don't care how far I call the game of lacrosse, that will always be one of the most fun games I've ever been a part of because of just the situation that it was and the comeback and all that kind of good stuff. But, let's go back to your early days in the game of lacrosse. You're from Markham, Ontario, Canada. Of course, coming across, coming down across the border for school. I know you love the Charlotte area, but how'd you get started in the game of lacrosse and what was it about lacrosse that just really stuck with you? Because you were ranked up into number 2 in the country coming out of high school. So, what about the game spoke to you and what made you love it so much?
I think, well, to start, I was always interested in sports, and
Sure.
lacrosse was honestly kind of on my back burner a little bit.
Okay.
Just growing up in Canada, I like hockey is number one for
Of
everybody.
course.
And so I played hockey my entire life. I played goalie in hockey, which is actually really weird, but I got to a point in hockey where I realized this isn't taking me to where I want to go.
Sure.
And if I'm being completely honest, playing goalie, you only get recognition if you have like a standout game, stand on your head, and win the game for the team. But if you lose a game 3-2, it's kind of your fault. So I loved it. I loved the pressure of playing goalie, but
Sure.
in the summers, hockey obviously ends because it's just the season's over. And so I had to pick up a new sport, and I tried soccer. Wasn't too great at it.
All right. Fair enough.
My brother actually played lacrosse, and he played for a couple years before I even knew what it was.
Okay.
I had no interest, and eventually got to a point where it was, all right, let's try it. Why not? And so I picked it up, and I started in Markham, like you said, where lacrosse is not very big. Hockey is very big there. There's a couple of NHL players that came out of there. But I ended up playing in Markham for a little bit and then realized, you know what, maybe I want to take this a little bit step further. So I joined a different team and just continued to build off that. And when I got to a point where I was in high school, I went to actually I went to 2 high schools. The first high school I went to was called Bill Crothers, and it's the first sports-specific high school in Ontario.
Okay.
So I got to play lacrosse there, meet a lot of really good people. And from there, I transferred out to a prep school called the Hill Academy, which was unbelievable for development. And I learned lessons there, just like Queens, that stuck with me forever. And a different man than I was when I first got in.
Sure.
But they really, my development with lacrosse, I attribute it a lot to them because it was a lot of work. It was basically a Division I program in high school where we would wake up in the morning, practice right away, class, workout, class, practice, and it was 5 days a week. So it was a lot of work, but it set me up for a great college career because, I mean, my love for lacrosse grew a ton there just because you played so much that you get bored of it sometimes, but at the same time you're getting so much better that like you want to continue to do it. And when I had the opportunity to choose between Queens and a few other schools, Queens was a perfect opportunity for me because, I mean, I really wanted to play early. I really wanted to get on the field and contribute as much as I can. And Queens gave me that opportunity. And I'm lucky as a freshman to help out as I did. But I mean, I had some great players on that first team that I played on. You've talked to Garrett Chan.
Yeah, I was just thinking about him, and I was going to say, we've obviously had Garrett Chan on this program before, and you play with some studs, but that's nothing to take away from what you did because you did very well as a freshman on that team, and to have those guys around you, I'm sure helped a lot.
Oh, unbelievable! It was super easy. My role of the freshman year was just stand in front of the net, you get doubled, you're going to be open, and just fake and finish. And so I stuck to my role pretty good. I didn't. When I came in, I'm still very, very thin in nature. But when I came in, I was super skinny. So it was a lot of avoiding getting some big hits. But it was super easy because I just stood there and I'd be open all the time.
I love it. Hey, and listen, you can be open all the time. That doesn't mean you're going to finish. So, a good job in finishing a whole mess load of goals that season, and of course, helping the team. And you guys, that 2016 team is probably one of the better in program history of just what you guys were able to accomplish. And then you went on. You averaged well over 14 games a year as your season and excuse me, as your career went on. And so, looking at your career here, and I know you talked about the coaching staffs and the players and stuff, but what did you learn from the game of lacrosse that you think is going to help you as you now take a step into the professional world?
I think just being able to show up every day is something that's huge because I've learned from my internships, there's so much to do, but if you show up in like half one day, then the way that you're perceived is that you're like giving half your effort. And so I think that it's the same from lacrosse, where if you practice 5 days a week or 6 days a week and you only show up for 3 of those days, you're not going to get on the field.
Sure.
You're not gonna succeed in what you're trying to do. You're not going to get better. And so, especially early in my career, I'm trying to do as much as I can, and it's be very diligent on details and everything like that, because that's exactly what I learned from sports, and exactly what I learned from Queens was it starts with the details. It starts with the little things. And if you don't do the little things right, then you're just not going to succeed. And so I think that's my biggest takeaway from lacrosse, and honestly sports overall, is just is continue to like show up in the right way every day and do the little things right. It's cliche. It's definitely cliche, but
hey, listen, those little things, if you don't do them enough, they become really big things, and all of a sudden you're grasping for straws. So, you definitely have a good foundation, that is for sure, in terms of heading on into your next steps. Now, that being said, you're looking at those next steps, of course, just graduating with your MBA here from Queens and a graduate of undergrad here in 2019. What are those next steps for you? What are you looking to do? And what would be your ultimate goal now as you enter the professional world?
So right now, starting out, I'm, like we talked about before, I'm in this weird kind of limbo situation where I'm finished my school visa, but now I'm applied for my extra year. But like the internships we talked about, I worked, the most recent internship I worked was with a boutique investment bank in Charlotte, and I learned a ton. The business is incredibly interesting for me. And so I think for me right away, my goals are continue to work in that investment bank and kind of climb the ranks. But if I'm being completely honest, my eventual goal is I'd love to be the president of a sports team, of a professional sports team. And so I'm trying to find my way to position myself in the sense that I can get to that spot. And honestly, the Queens internship or the grad assistantship was perfect for me because I have that on my resume, and I've seen how sports teams work. I've seen how the organization works with it, and all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of the athletes don't get to see. So I think I'm setting myself up for that. But as of right now, I'm extremely laser focused on investment banking and just seeing as much of the financial world as I can. So when it comes to a point where I'm ready to take my next step, I have that business background with me, but I'll always have that sport in my heart. So that's definitely my angle, is to be the president of a sports team.
Well, listen, I as someone who has loved to make their life about sports, I 100% agree with you. And, like you said, it's one of those things that if you have that business background, that is a huge, huge piece of what this, especially with the professional side of things, is a huge piece to have. And so, of course, having an MBA like that and being in this market as well, you get to see these professional teams and athletes and how they, adapt on a daily basis to the changing markets or whatever it might be. It seems to be you were pretty well set up here at Queens, and the internships, it sounds like you learned some pretty invaluable lessons from there.
Definitely. I talked to Dr. Cox about it, and the few times that we've talked in our meetings. I would not be where I am without the internships. Queens has helped shape me, but it put me into a position that it kind of forced me to get those internships, but without kind of pushing me in that direction. I wouldn't have stepped out and done those internships. I would have just said, you know what, I'm doing a lot with school. I'm doing a lot as a lacrosse player, but to have that extra little push and honestly the opportunity to work changed my life. And
Sure.
I've said it to Dr. Cox a bunch. Without it, I would not be where I am. And I just can't, I couldn't thank him enough for teaching the class, because it gave me the opportunity to find what I wanted to do. My first internship was in expansion lending.
Okay.
And then I kind of worked through the sports side of it with the GA Queens, and then I worked
Okay.
my way back into finance with the investment banking. And without it, I wouldn't have found my path. And honestly,
Sure.
I think I'd just be sitting in Canada working a job I didn't like.
Fair enough. Well, first off, a shout out to Dr. Stephen Cox over there. He's the one who made sure that we talked to you, because he said you'd be a great ambassador for the school. And it's funny, when your name got mentioned, I said, man, yeah, he would be a good guy to talk about, because of course, like we talked about, you have that unique perspective as a student athlete, but also seeing it from how things are run on that side of things with the athletic department as well. And it sounds like that's going to prove very valuable for you as you take these next steps. So Jesse, I appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much for carving some time out. And of course, before I let you go, I want to make you a recruiter now. Of course, you got recruited here. So, what is it about Queens that you would tell somebody that's thinking about being a prospective student, or just thinking about that next step in their life of whether going back to school or coming to school for the first time? What is it about Queens that just stands out to you and that hands-on learning experience?
Well, I would say, coming from Canada, very specific for me or anybody coming from the north, you come, you see the weather,
Mm,
absolutely cannot beat it.
yeah.
But on a more serious note, I think that the small class sizes at Queens offers such an opportunity for students to get like hands-on experience with their teacher. Because when I first came into to Queens, I wanted to be a digital art major, and when I started taking finance classes, I was like, okay, this is interesting. I kind of
Sure.
like this and I kind of like that, but I didn't fully understand it. And when I had the chance in my first class with Dr. Powell, which was I think it's financial accounting, the one that I
Okay.
had with him. But he basically, I was struggling, and I said, can you please take me through this? And he carved
Sure.
out an hour and a half in his day to just sit with me, go through the homework that we did, and just basically teach me it again individually. And
Awesome.
so that was my biggest thing when I was coming to Queens, was one, the academics are unbelievable, and
Sure.
two, the small
Absolutely.
class sizes. If there's ever a point where I'm struggling, I can go talk to my teacher.
Mhm.
And on top of that, something that I learned when I first got to Queens was all the resources that you have at your
Mm,
disposal, with tutoring, with a writing center. It's unbelievable the success that a student can have in the classroom and on the field,
sure.
because of the high level of athletics, as well as the like very, very good academic program and the academic support. So I would say those two things were huge for me. But at the same time, you can't go past looking at Charlotte, looking at the skyline pretty
Yes,
much
sir.
every day. It's unbelievable. It's an opportunity, especially in Division II,
Hmm.
that not a lot of schools have, and I think everybody's envious of.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to do. You can hit Freedom Park, you can hit South End, you can go to Uptown, watch a Panthers game, or
Hmm.
a Hornets game. Now with the Charlotte FC coming, there's just so much to
Yeah.
do. As a student coming out of, or as a kid coming out of high school, I just, there was so much to do. There was so much sports in the area that it was hard for me to turn down. But
Absolutely.
I would say Queens, two thumbs up. I think it's the best Division II school in the world, and I would recommend it for everybody, because my experience was amazing, and I know everybody else that I know had an amazing experience as well. So
Awesome.
I think I would definitely recommend it to everybody.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned it, the hands-on experience, and it's in a business, whether it's business, sports, entertainment, whatever it is, that hands-on experience is so crucial. And you come out of Queens with a very, very intensive foundation of being able to use that hands-on experience and now apply it on into the rest of your professional career as well. So, Jesse, appreciate you taking the time talking with us. We wish you the best of luck. Don't be a stranger. Make sure if you're around in lacrosse season, hop on the microphone. I'm in. You know what I mean? I love bringing that energy.
I will be here. You let me know. I'll be there, because I like to get loud on the mic.
Absolutely. Hey, and I'm okay with that. Like I say, it always is about that energy, and I like keeping the energy up. So, Jesse, enjoy the rest of your day. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us once again for another Alumni Spotlight right here on the Queen Sports Network. As always, make sure you tune in each and every Thursday for the Inside the Lions Den, once a month now for the Alumni Spotlight. But, of course, we have all sorts of great content. Just hit that like and subscribe button, and check us out at queensathletics.com. For Jesse Oliver, I'm Mike Glennon. Enjoy the rest of your day, and as always, go Royals.